Where are we with VAIDS?
Well, I mean, like I told a few people last week, the deadline is has always been to declare. Once you declare, the VAIDS office would make its assessment, and you make the relevant payment of taxes, excluding penalties and interest, which is the essence of the scheme in itself. It's expected that after this has been done, we should see prosecution by the government. At least that's what has been promised, that tax defaulters will be prosecuted thereafter. But in terms of resources and allocation of efforts, I would not expect revenue to go after everyone. Definitely there has to be a threshold as to who, taxpayers of interest in terms of those that have defaulted and those that government can raise significant revenues from. So that's what I expect. If it's going to be done is a separate question, because I have a few concerns around that, considering that it's an election year. What we've seen usually is that government is always careful during an election year. So to the extent, the extent to which government will be willing to prosecute is also a question which begs for answers, and the answers we can get is if we see actual prosecution.
Now, going by the government's plan on VAIDS, by now, as of this morning, we should be waking up to love letters in court to tax, given by the federal government and the finance ministry to tax defaulters. From there, even before we got to the love letter stage, we had the threats for name and shame.
Yeah.
Would you say that we have seen results from, first of all, name and shame, and how well positioned do you think the finance ministry is at this point in time to actually begin to distribute the love letters in court to defaulters?
I think we're actually underestimating government, because there is actually a project going on silently, which is called Project Lighthouse. And essentially, government is trying to gather information and data regarding taxpayers, which most likely would form the basis of any form of prosecution we would see in the near term, if it would happen. The love letters may not happen almost immediately, because of you have to gather data, process it and make the assessment. So maybe the love letters will start coming out maybe by end of July. We expect also to see taxpayers contesting some of those assessments, which should be, which is a legal right. If there's an assessment and you think you are not subject to that payment, then you can contest that within the provisions of the law. So it's going to be a bit of a long process. We may not expect to see a lot of traction maybe in the next 1 month, but going forward after then, we most likely would see the love letters in form of assessment.
We know that over the past year, the government has gone ahead to sign MOUs with international organizations as part of its plans to obtain data. So who essentially, or what categories of tax defaulters would you say that Project Lighthouse covers?
Well, as it is now, it's data gathering on HNIs, who are the high net worth individuals. Definitely, we do not expect government to waste efforts on the lower end, because of the returns it will get. So in terms of the focus most likely will be on HNIs and also companies which have been for the lack of better expression, say avoiding taxes. In terms of how government will go about it, I would expect a lot of thinking to have gone into the process, because also you do not want to be seen as not being serious, especially on the government side. So, like I said, the coming months will throw more clarity as to how things would go.
Talking about the coming months throwing clarity, we know that it is not uncommon for the government to pipe down, calm down ahead of coming elections. So do you think that the government at this point has the political willpower to go all out for tax defaulters?
Honestly, I would say no, because, this government is seeking re-election. What we've seen over time is that, there usually are some form of consequences if you try to do the right thing. But for me, if the government is serious about what it wants to do, then it should go headlong. And especially considering the government's posture as a government which preaches compliance and So government, I mean, my expectation is government should go headlong, but in terms of political will, I seriously doubt it.